Hey, what's up people? This is the Spyderco Native Chief Lightweight that just was released, and I literally just got this yesterday, so this is nothing more than a first impressions video. I just want to talk about how this knife is done, how it's constructed, a little bit about the shape and the steel later in the video. And yeah, basically I was really happy to see the Native Chief Lightweight being announced, because I always thought the Native Chief is a little bit overpriced, and this one is a lot lower. The Native Chief normally is like over 200 euros. This on sale was about 140 euros, which is a good price, I think, for what you get here. And yeah, it is also in CTS BD1N, a steel that I personally like quite a bit. Like I said, I'm gonna talk about that a little bit later, and maybe even compare it to some other steels that the Native Chief is available in now. The lightweight version, at least. I think it's available in a bunch of steels in the G10 and also in the lightweight, so yeah. I should note that this is not the clip that it usually comes with. The stone-washed version here usually comes with the mirror polished clip that is very shiny, and I put that off because it is very shiny. So yeah, I put luckily I have a lot of Spyderco knives, and I have a bunch of clips laying around, so I put a black clip on here so it's less noticeable. And yeah, I hate these shiny clips on knives. I really don't like them. I think they look good if you have them in hand and look at them, but if you carry them, they are quite noticeable. Now, speaking about shiny, this is the stone-washed version that Spyderco does now quite a bit, and it's not really reflective at all. It's really a nice matte finish. It's not a belt satin, it's a belt satin over underneath a stone wash, and it's a really attractive finish. I think Spyderco does a really nice job with these. I was hesitating, should I buy the black version or this version, and luckily I bought this version with the black clip. Now this is the perfect Native Chief Lightweight. It also comes in partially serrated or full serrated. Now this is a very slicey, pointy, slicey knife, and yeah, I wanted to have more of the slicing and less of the grabbing and ripping action, so I didn't went with the serrated versions. It would make for a very devastating tactical knife for sure if you go serrated, but yeah, I wanted to have the plain edge. Yeah, the construction on this. The construction is just two slabs of FRN, so there are no nested liners in here like on an Endura. So the Endura has the nested steel liners inside. And here is a size comparison. The Native Chief is a bit bigger than the Spyderco Endura, also a lot pointier. And interestingly enough, because there are no liners in here, it has a lot less weight. So I think the Endura normally is like a 98 gram knife, so a little bit over 3 ounces. And this is sub 3 ounces, 84 grams on my scales, 2.9 ounces I think that is, for a 4-inch blade. So basically you get the military sized blade. If you hold it cutting edge to cutting edge, you can see that the military has a slight advantage because of that little bit more belly that it has in the blade shape. We're gonna talk about that also a little bit later. But yeah, I would say this is off the charts weight to size ratio here. Super easy and lightweight to carry. Great summer shorts knife, I guess. Summer is already over, but for next summer it would be a great knife for that. If you do the ultra light hiking, for instance, this is not a lot of weight in your pocket. It also is not as wide as a lot of Spyderco's because it doesn't have that hump for the thumb hole, making it for a narrow construction. But the thumb hole is also still easy to access. Sometimes I can Spidey flick this knife, I just can't do it right now. You really have to try though to Spidey flick it. There you go. It is doable, but it's not made for this. It is a backlock system, obviously. I have lots of Spyderco backlocks, lots of backlocks in general in my collection, and this is a really well done backlock. Zero break-in period on this one. Super smooth out of box. I should note that my knife was slightly off-centered to the left here, and it's not a big deal. I can push it into place super easily. Maybe I could even tighten on the pivot more, but yeah, it's not a big deal. It doesn't rub anywhere. No washers on this one, just like on the Native, which can be a good or a bad thing. So the Native Chief G10 has washers. I guess with the washers the scales might not wear as quickly, but also the Native that also has no washers has been on the market for a long time now, and I've never ever heard anyone complain about the knife wearing down too fast. So I don't know if it's really an issue. One of the positive things here is that you have more contact area with the blade, meaning you have basically the scales are giant washers, so you have a much more solid, there are less moving parts obviously, so there you have a much more solid construction, making this for having absolutely zero up and down, side to side blade play. This is a really tight constructed knife. Yeah, and it feels very well done in terms of its construction. The weight, like I said, crazy. Obviously there are a lot of lesser, not a lot, but quite a few knives that don't weigh as much, but they're also a lot smaller, and this has a 4-inch blade, so yeah, you get the really lightweight knife for this size. Also, I want to say, when I opened the box, I was kind of underwhelmed at first, because it felt so light that it also felt, cheap is the wrong word, but it felt inexpensive at first, and I had to use it, and as soon as I carried and used it, I liked it quite a bit. So I'm gonna tell you right away, I like this knife quite a bit. I think it's a great design. The design itself, if you think about it, there is this Italian traditional knife design that's called a patata. In this case, this is a Saladini made patata knife. I think the Italians call it patata des. It's basically this shape with the belly here in the back, and then a very steep angle towards the tip, and a very acute tapering fine point. And if you hold up the Native Chief next to this traditional knife, hold cutting edge to cutting edge, you will see that this is actually the exact same cutting edge. So the Native Chief could be seen as a modern interpretation of a Italian patata knife, which is super cool. I like this shape quite a bit. It's super pointy. It is a really nice shape, especially for cutting food and doing the finer tasks. This is super nice for doing the finer whittling stuff. It came out hair popping sharp out of box, and it does do very well in terms of the slicing. I haven't measured the thickness behind the edge yet, but it is very thin, and it cuts really good. So I like the shape. Speaking of the belly here in the back and not in the front, that might be a drawback. If you look at the military that has more of the belly in the front, if you do a cut where you have to finish the cut, you start the cut here and finish the cut here, I think the more belly helps with that just a little bit better, because you have more resistance in this area. Whereas this knife doesn't have that, because the angle is more steep towards the tip. But on the other hand, the taper on this blade shape is so crazily thin, and it comes down to such a thin edge here that it cuts just from pure geometry. So it's not cutting with the shape well, but it cuts from the pure thin construction, thin geometry, thin grind, and it has a super fine point. So this is, I don't know, maybe half the size of a PM2 tip. So if you break off a lot of tips, you should be careful with this one. This is a really piercy, fine pointy knife. Yeah, I like it quite a bit. It is very stabby. I'm not sure how if you could put this in a tactical environment, you probably could, but it would be more of a stabby knife than a slashy knife, I guess. Like I said, the grind runs down thin, so it might also slash well, but yeah, generally speaking, I would say this is a good EDC knife, a larger EDC knife that doesn't have a lot of weight. The steel, CTS BD1N. Like I said, it's a steel that I personally like quite a bit. It's a high chromium steel. The N in the name also suggests that there is nitrogen in it, which means so chromium basically forms like a protective layer over the iron atoms, so they don't corrode, and but they often leaves some little gaps in there, and nitrogen basically comes in and closes those gaps, and making the steel even more resistant to rusting, especially against salts. And salts are also in your sweat, so if you sweat on this knife, you don't corrode it as easily. A lot of high chromium steels can still rust with salts, and this knife has less likelihood to rust under those conditions. So CTS BD1N is a highly corrosion resistant steel, I would say, but at the same time it is also tough down at the edge. Now, we don't see that with a lot of steels that are PM steels, like S40B for instance, is a high edge retention, high corrosion resistant steel, but low in toughness. And this is the opposite. It's higher in toughness, a little bit lesser in edge retention, obviously, but not bad at all. I don't know where to put this in terms of the edge retention. It is like in the genre of N690-ish, kind of, in terms of how long it cuts. I don't think it's bad at all. The steel takes a really, really nice and fine edge, and it takes it easily and quickly, and it is easy to restore and not very likely to chip on you, which is something that I like much more, a steel that doesn't chip rather than a steel that holds an edge forever. So, because what's the point in having high edge retention on the parts that didn't chip? So yeah, there is no point in that to me. So I like the steel quite a bit. It's a very user-friendly steel, and they also make the lightweight version in MagnaCut now, and the MagnaCut version is quite a bit more expensive. And if you think about what MagnaCut actually is, MagnaCut is a well-balanced steel, high edge retention, high corrosion resistance, high toughness, but BD1N is already that, just a little bit lesser. So I don't know if I would pay the huge up price to BD1N or to MagnaCut from BD1N, because BD1N does the same things, just not as extremely. So I don't know if that's really what you need. The LC200N obviously would be even a higher corrosion resistant steel. So if you're looking for a knife to travel the oceans with, yeah, the LC200N might even be better in that. Although, like I said, BD1N is not a steel that will corrode on you easily, and especially in the black version, I would say. So yeah. It is a really, really compelling steel. It is a really nice design. It is a really well constructed knife. I think the Native Chief Lightweight is a winner to me. We see how it performs over time and how much I like it in a couple of years from now. So yeah, but yeah, so far I think this is a great knife. Thank you guys for watching. Maybe we see each other in another video. Goodbye, people.